Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jules, and I'm going to help you know yourself, lead yourself, and thrive in your personal life, in your relationship, as well as in your work. And we will start doing that, but by knowing ourselves in and out. So if you are subscribed to my channel, you know that a few weeks ago I posted a video on firstborn daughters and how they become who they are, how they become strong, how they make decisions for other people, and how they are naturally people pleasers. So in this video, I want majorly to talk about attachment styles as we build up towards now coming back to ourselves and also answering the questions, how do we become better? So if you see me looking away or looking down, there are a few notes that I wrote down that I want to speak to you about so that I don't forget, because this is a very important topic. So let's dive right in. So when you talk about attachment styles, it basically talks about your behavior and how you show up in relationships. And basically there are 4 types of attachment styles. How do these attachment styles come about? They come about from the way you were raised and the behaviors you learned when you were young as a coping mechanism from, I can say, from the reaction you got from your caregivers. So you once were a child, and one of the key questions, or 2 key questions that children ask themselves is, number 1, am I safe? And number 2, am I loved? So let's look at the first attachment style, and this is the secure attachment style. So when we talk about secure attachment style, majorly what we are saying is someone who has a secure attachment style grew up in a home that had these features. Number 1, their caregivers were consistent and also they were emotionally available. So that's the first one. Number 2, their feelings were allowed and noted. For some of us who grew up in dysfunctional homes, we were not allowed to be seen or heard. So we rarely spoke about our feelings. Number 3, mistakes were corrected in a loving manner without humiliation. And the last one, love was not withdrawn as a punishment. For most of us who show up as especially people pleasers, procrastinators, and also I can say enablers for bad behaviors, especially for our other siblings, love was withdrawn as a form of punishment. If you did something bad, then your needs were not met emotionally, even physically sometimes. So how do the adult behaviors of securely attached people show up as? They have healthy boundaries. Number 2, they have balanced independence and closeness. They have the ability to seek help or to ask for help. You'll find that most of us as firstborn daughters, we believe we can do it ourselves. But if you're a securely attached person, you do ask for help. And number 4, they have steady goal setting and follow through. Okay, so this person is able to set goals and is very balanced enough to follow through. So let me give you an example just to bring it home. A securely attached woman supports her extended family, but still can say, this is how much I can give without harming myself. She doesn't go the extra mile to harm herself in order to give to someone else. So that's very important. Her nervous system believes that I am safe even when I disappoint someone. What happens, and I can say for myself, that sometimes when I disappoint someone, my nervous system tells me that something is wrong. You know, you have that feeling of guilt. Maybe when your brother asks you for money and you don't have, or you don't give. Because if you give from a place of you don't have, or if you go ahead and maybe take up a loan or get in debt to sort that someone out, you are actually harming yourself. So if you're not securely attached, you will want to please that person and go out of your way to be able to make it okay. The number one feeling is you always want to be okay. So you know that if you don't give to your brother, you will not feel okay. Not knowing that it is okay to not harm yourself through overgiving, that feeling of you not being okay is actually okay. That guilt does not mean that anything is wrong. So again, a secure woman's nervous system is okay, or tells her it is okay even when they disappoint someone else. Yeah. So the second attachment style I want to talk about is the anxious attachment style. So how does this show up? So an anxious attachment style is majorly comes about in relationships, especially if you grew up in a home that was emotionally inconsistent, where care was unpredictable. Sometimes you didn't even get your basic needs met. Praise and criticism are mixed. You don't know when you're being praised. You don't know when you're being criticized. Love feels conditional. If you wash the dishes, then you're loved. If you get good grades, then you're loved. If you don't get good grades, then you're not loved. And also, children feel responsible for adult emotions. And when I say inconsistent homes, I do not mean it can even be a home where, let's say, one of the parents was sick and all the care and attention had to go to that parent, and or the child had to wear the shoes of the adult and take care of this sick person. So you find that the children felt responsible for adult emotions. So the child learns to stay alert all the time, and it's harder for the child to keep connections. So how does the common adult behaviors for this anxious attachment style show up as? People pleasing is one of them. The second one is overgiving and self-neglect. Then fear of abandonment, attaching yourself to people and fearing them leaving even when they're not good for you. Overthinking and anxiety, and also difficulty saying no. Guys, I have anxious attachment, unfortunately. So let me give you an example. If you're used to sending money home even when you cannot afford it, if you're used to sending money to your parents even when you cannot afford it, you have an anxious attachment style. If you're used to staying in unclear relationships because you feel safer than in the truth of this relationship is not going anywhere, then you have an anxious attachment style. Again, if you are an overworker because you feel like you have to validate yourself, you feel like you have to earn approval, then you most probably have an anxious attachment style. So when you have an anxious attachment, your core belief is that if I don't try harder, I will lose love. Isn't that disappointing, guys? If I don't try harder, I may lose love. So your healing as an anxiously attached person is or starts when your boundaries, or when you learn that boundaries do not equate to rejection. If you set up a boundary and that person leaves, just remember that it's good for you. Then also, you remind yourself that rest does not equal failure. Stop overworking, guys. Then you allow yourself to choose yourself without guilt. It means prioritizing yourself. So again, let me repeat the three things. Boundaries do not equate to rejection. Even if you feel bad, and you have to rewire your system every time, your nervous system, because at first when you start putting boundaries on, people will leave. And when they leave, you start feeling guilty, or you'll start invalidating yourself. Let them leave. Once that guilt settles and you reevaluate your life and you reflect back, you will actually be thankful that these people left. The second thing, rest. Rest does not equal failure. One of the things that anxiously attached people or how they are is that they're always on the go. They're always on the go, doing something, not resting. So you need to always learn that rest does not equal failure. The other thing is you are allowed to choose yourself without guilt. Prioritize yourself always. Don't do something knowing, or don't overgive or people please, knowing that you will eventually, or this will eventually harm you. Okay, so that's about anxious attachment. Then number 3, we have avoidant attachment. So basically, avoidant attachment often forms when homes were unsafe or when emotions were discouraged. Unsafe may mean also the homes, you grew up in a violent home, so you become avoidant. So these homes always send out these messages like, be strong, stop crying, especially for men. You're always being told, stop crying, be strong, you're a baby. And then also when you're given early responsibilities as the child, and there's emotional distance or silence around feelings. Okay, now the child learns that needing others is risky. As an adult, how do you show up as avoidant? You emotionally withdraw. When people get close to you, you feel tired, you feel drained. Then also you have hyper independence. You can do it all, and you don't ask for help. You are avoidant of vulnerability. You don't talk about your feelings. Then you also have difficulty receiving help, and also you play small despite your capacity. It's not easy for you to receive compliments. Anytime anyone says you look good, you don't accept it. So you like playing small. So let me give you an African example. A woman who avoids marriage or partnership despite loneliness, or maybe despite them being in a good relationship, is probably anxiously attached. If you refuse mentorship or collaboration, might be an indicator of that. Or if you always say you're fine despite being emotionally drained or despite being exhausted, then probably you're an avoidant. Again, healing begins when you start asking for help. You also need to start naming your emotions, and you also need to allow safe people to show up for you. Please rest. Allow people to help you. Learn to ask for help. HELP. Learn those words. Okay? Very important. Don't try to be Superwoman. Now, the last one is disorganized attachment. So, disorganized attachment often forms in homes where love and fear existed together. Yeah, and in this home, you may find that maybe one or the other caregiver was a substance abuser. There was emotional unpredictability, there was trauma or neglect, and also there was violence or high conflict. So the child usually receives mixed signals. They don't know where to stand with this caregiver. So closeness feels good, but it also feels unsafe because there is a bit of unpredictability from the caregiver. So common adult behavior are people who push and pull in relationships, people who self-sabotage, people who are emotionally overwhelmed, and people who shut down and make impulsive decisions. So an example is maybe a woman who starts strong, maybe they're in a good job and all of a sudden they quit their job. Or a woman who leaves stable relationships for chaotic relationships. That may be an indicator of a disorganized attachment. And a woman who fears both success but also fears failure. So the core belief of someone who is actually disorganized or has disorganized attachment is I want closeness, but at the same time, I don't want closeness. Or I want closeness, but closeness hurts. And healing truly begins where you're trauma informed and you get support. And I would advocate actually, if you have all of these attachment styles aside from secure attachment, as much as possible, get a counselor to walk you through or get therapy. Because we all want to be secure, we all want to chase our goals, and we all want to be fulfilled in life. So healing begins when this person gets trauma-informed support, when they start having predictable routine. Keep in mind that for this disorganized attachment, they grew up in a home that was majorly violent, and they were not safe. So these people need a very predictable routine, and they need to feel safe, and they need also consistent relationships. If you're friends with this person, be consistent. If you say you're going to call at 8 p.m., call at 8 p.m. Then they also need to slow down when making decisions, especially when they feel like they're triggered. Yeah. So in closing, healing starts actually when you recognize the patterns that you have. And also keep in mind that so many of us have are avoidant, are anxious, or have disorganized attachment styles. It does not mean you're weak, because part of these attachment styles also have their plus. Okay, so once you recognize yourself, this is the first step in healing. Find a mentor, find a counselor, find a therapist, or even find tools online that will help you work through your attachment style. Remember mostly that you're not broken, and you just adopted this way of living so that you survive. It is unfortunate that now that you're an adult, this informs 95% of your decision making. But then again, this can change. And the first step to change is actually acknowledging and accepting how and knowing how you attach to relationships, knowing how you operate in the workplace, and knowing how you show up yourself, especially when you're getting or running to achieve your goals. And when you overcome now your insecurities, when you now work on your attachment style, you can show up feeling safe. You can show up with also compassion to yourself and to others. And when your nervous system is at rest, you can be able to pursue your goals and get into relationships that will take you to the next level. So allow me to stop there, and I hope that you did enjoy this session. And click and subscribe to my channel, and I can't wait to see you in the next conversation. Goodbye.